Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host, Cesar Hernandez. We're here to talk about Liga MX. We're here to talk about the results from the weekend, and of course, we're here to talk a little bit about Tri. But before we get into that, let me introduce tonight's guest over in Philadelphia, or Philadelphia-ish, or Pennsylvania. I don't even know anymore. We have Jason Markowitz. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well in the Philadelphia-ish. Liga MX back in full swing here, so a lot going on, and I think we're coming down to it. A lot of all those teams all grouped together at the top of the table, and I'm excited for this final stretch down the season here after we get through this next international break. I think it's heating up, so I'm excited to talk about it a bit here.
Yeah, due to the way that the league is structured, it's always the final stretch, but it always feels like you're always close to the final stretch. But yeah, Tom over in Guadalajara. Tom, how are you doing? Did you finish your dinner yet? I know you were just
still got a little bit left, but you started, didn't you? So what I'm gonna do? It's like I've got my food here waiting for me, just tempting me in, but I can't finish it now. I have to wait an hour. It'll be cold.
Yeah,
cold.
I yelled at Tom. He got pretty angry with me. It was a pretty serious argument, but I think we're all right.
So, yeah, no, all good, Cesar. Yeah, Atlas Veracruz on Friday. And then, watching the games over the weekend, and obviously now looking forward to, I'll be in San Luis on Wednesday night, and then obviously head of the Friday game. So, looking forward to the national team and seeing if Mexico can actually, beat La Volpe's 22 points that he got back in 2005. And I think that'd be, it'd be massive if he can do that. It's not the same as 4 years ago where everyone was just stressing out, and there's 2 games coming up where, Mexico obviously came so close to not making the World Cup.
Yeah, agreed. And guys, before we get started on the show, really quickly, I need to bring up last night's incident in Las Vegas. I mean, there seems to be, just no lack of tragic events, happening right now. And I wish I really knew the right words to say in a situation like this, but we're all hoping for the best for everyone affected. Not only last night's situation, but just all the other events that we've had to see and those have had to suffer in the past few weeks. But of course, there's still soccer to talk about. That's why we're here. That's why you all are here listening to our show. So let's get started on this show. And guys, to kick off the podcast, let's start with today's big question. And the question is, at this point, who is your MVP of the 2017 Apertura? And we'll go with Jason first on this. Jason, who's your MVP at this point?
These kind of questions are hard because, just parsing out one player can be difficult, especially you look at the teams that are doing really well. And the first player that jumps to my mind was Villa Soldado with Monterrey. So I think he's someone that added to the team that has made a big difference. But at the same time, it's hard to just kind of single him out when you have Pavon next to him and the way he's been playing. I'm looking at Morelia as well with Raul Ruiz and Diego Valdez, who have been kind of essential in their keeping them up and keeping them a successful team. I think without those 2 players, they would be in a lot of trouble, but they're kind of stealing votes from each other for me. And the other guy I considered was Javier Aquino. So I think he's just been massive for Tigres this season. But it's hard to just, again, single out Aquino on a team like Tigres that's just full of all that attacking talent. So I'm going with a homer pick because I really think that Angel Mena has been just a massive player this season and absolutely crucial for Cruz Azul. Just about everything they've done going forward has gone through Mena. I think he's just so important for that team. Maybe not the best player in the league, but probably the most important for Cruz Azul at this point, and possibly the most important so far in the league as far as his impact on the team and what I think that team would look like without him at this point. So I give it to him, but I'm willing to be convinced otherwise.
And part of the MMM. Yeah, that's what I like to call it for Cruz Azul. You have MSN, but obviously MMM over Cruz Azul. Tom, same question. Who has been your MVP so far?
I win Abelis Hurtado from Monterrey. I think that you could name a few of Monterrey's players, to be honest, but the fact that he's come from Tijuana, who were finished top of the regular season the last 2 seasons, and then Hurtado moves over to Monterrey and it instantly clicks under Mohamed. he instantly identifies with the team style and he instantly improves the team by such a degree that I think the fact that Carlos Sanchez is playing so well, the fact that Pavón is playing so well, is partly because of Hurtado. I think he's been the missing piece of the jigsaw. And, when you think of this question, Jason said there, it's a difficult one, and it is. But sometimes you have to kind of which players had most influence on his team, and I think Aviles Hurtado fits that bill. I mean, you could say the same thing. Obviously Elias Hernandez and Boselli and Leon have got up there as well. I think Santiago Garcia over at Toluca has been a big signing. Even Musto at Tijuana, he's come the last few weeks. He's shown himself. Gustavo Bo as well has been a really good player. But and Carlos Sanchez, again, going back to Monterrey, I'd say that he's improved massively on what we saw in the last couple of seasons. And I think he's got to be in there with a shot. But for me, Aviles Hurtado has been, for the last few seasons now, if not the best, but one of the best 5. And he's showing such consistency. So I'd put him as the player of the season so far. Yeah,
like you guys said, there's a lot of good choices out there right now. I think, speaking of that consistency, my pick is Boselli. I mean, you just mentioned it. I think you just look at those stats from him, just goal scoring stats. Not even just those 9 goals that he's had. He's also had 2 assists. I know that's not that many assists, but then when you look at Leon in general and how many goals they've scored and how many Boselli's had a part in, it's incredible. He's had a part in more than 50% of their goals so far this season, and he's been a big part of that. That little resurgence that they've had as well recently. So yeah, I'm gonna say Boselli. I think it's just it's just that consistency so far over the season. I've been very, very impressed with.
Yeah, it's interesting as well to kind of turn the question on its head and look at the players who aren't there.
Yeah,
nobody's mentioned there is Gignac. Yeah. In the last couple of years in Liga MX, it's all been about, no, Gignac's the best player in the league, Gignac's this, Gignac's that. And all of a sudden, I don't know, it's just not quite really clicked for Gignac this season. I'm not entirely sure it's completely him.
Yeah. I feel we've talked about that before in the past. I think in the past, I want to say maybe I don't want to say past a year, but the past several months, we've criticized Gignac, and then it just clicks. Something just kind of turns on. I don't know if it's usually the playoffs. I think he tends to step up in the playoffs as well, but it seems like there have been a few situations. This isn't the first time where we felt like he's a little off or he's had a little bit of a goal-scoring drought, but then something just clicks and he just kind of hits the ground running. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. I guess what I'm going with this is I wouldn't be surprised if he gets like a hat trick at some point within his next 1 or 2 games, and suddenly he's up there as one, pushing for one of the goal-scoring leaders in the league. But but it is worth noting that something does seem a little off.
It's a bit strange, yeah. I think other players to throw in the mix. I think Volpe at Querétaro. Yeah. I mean, it's easy. Obviously they're down there in the league. They're kind of sinking into this relegation battle now. I mean, they're definitely in relegation trouble. There's no doubt about it. It's not just. But without Volpe, where would this Querétaro team be?
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of quality saves he makes seemingly every single week. Again, going back to that old question, which players are making the biggest difference to that team? Without them, they'd be elsewhere in the league. And I think Volpe with Querétaro, we can say that he's had a big influence on them not basically being further down the table than they are right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Jason, looking over at the chat, what kind of answers have we had? Or any noteworthy answers that we've had from the question from people who are watching the show? Oh, Jason, can't hear you. Let's see, can't hear Jason.
I think Victor Guzman has got a shout on there from that guy with a name. That's actually his name, but
it's not something that starts with I.
No, but Victor Guzman he's having a great season, and it's good to see him develop. It's good to see the Mexican players, making an impact on the scoring chart. I mean, it's easy to take the negative, and if you look at the scoring chart right now, I think Guzman's the only Mexican player in the top 15. Is it 14?
So yeah, he's definitely up there because he scored. What is it? He's scored? It's six goals.
6 goals, yeah.
And all 6 goals have come from 3 games where he scored twice,
yeah.
which is something else that's also kind of incredible from Guzman. And of course, that's why I think some people are pushing and surprised why he wasn't in the call-up. But that is worth noting, yeah. And then, hold on really quickly, Tom. Let's see if we can hear Jason. Hey,
can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Yes. There we go. All right, Jason, now that you're back, I don't know if you're ready, Jason, but do you have any of the other answers that people have been saying online?
I do. Oh, yeah. So a lot of calls for Vilas Hurtado in the chat, agreeing with our discussion on that. Jesus Flores, MJP brought him up as well, and some agreeing with the Baselli. MJP also saying Baselli. That guy with the name 23, I think Tom just mentioned that with Victor Guzman. So, yeah. Also, Jesus Flores mentions Marchesín being considered as one of those goalkeepers that are really important for America at this point. So another one to consider as well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with the Baselli one. Because it's almost like he's the type of player, obviously he's got a lot of goals this season, so he's kind of up there, but he gets his share of goals every single season.
Yeah.
And I mean, if there was a prize, who's the best Liga MX player over the last 3-4 years, he'd definitely be up there because he does it every single season without fail. He's been one of the best players in the league for me now for the last few years.
Yeah.
But he kind of goes underneath the radar because his goals aren't regularly kind of out of this world. You know what I mean? He gets the on the end of crosses a lot of the time from Elias Hernandez. He gets the scrappy goals. But yeah, he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. I mean, I think between him and Elias Hernandez, they've contributed with an assist or score in the last 14 of Leon's goals.
That's an awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it says a lot about Leon recently as well, about why they've improved so much.
And if I remember correctly, he recently scored his 100th goal with the team, correct? I think that was 1 or 2 weeks ago, or he scored that 100th goal with Leon. Which is quite impressive, which says a lot about, I mean, how well he's done with the team, how well he's done Liga MX. And I mean, I guess you would wonder if a player like that would eventually go to Europe. But I mean, he's 31 now, 32, and I think he's already made his trip over there. What was it with Wigan? I think. When was that? Yeah,
he played for Wigan. Yeah. But I mean, just a final point on the the MVP of the year. So the season is that if you look at the names we mentioned, I think the only name there we mentioned who's under 25 years old is Diego Valdez. I think Jason mentioned him there from Morelia. Who's turning into a fine player. Yeah. But it's slightly disappointing as well from the Mexican national team point of view that we're not kind of, nobody said Pizarro, nobody said Orbelín Pineda, and rightly so. They've not. I think Pizarro was playing well. I thought he did really well against Tigres, but we're not talking about young Mexicans like being at the top of the league, pushing for Europe. So right now, I mean, at the end of the day, Diego Valdez is somebody that if you're a European club, you'd be looking very closely at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the same with Julián Quiñones before his kind of stuff got off the field. Before the stuff out, but if you're a European scout, you look at Quiñones and you think this is a real player who's got a big future in Europe. Where sometimes maybe Orbelín Pineda, and you think, like, why is he on the bench? I mean, I really don't know. I don't understand it. Why is he on the bench? And I'm not sure who else, but I think maybe Aquino's the only Mexican player among that group who's not kind of like hitting 30, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, Tom, speaking about Leon and Lobos BUAP, let's go to that 3-0 win for Leon over the weekend over Lobos BUAP. That's their 4th victory in a row. Things are really working quite well for them. Tom, what caused this turnaround? Was it Diaz? I know he's now in charge of the team, and do we now see them as a potential title contender? Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think Torrente obviously is part of Marcelo Bielsa's old backroom staff assistant, and I think basically the players seem to be a little bit tired of the intensity that he was of the coach. And I think then you change over to Gustavo Diaz. And really, Leon have been quite consistent in terms of playing stuff for quite a few years now. So it's no surprise. This is a team that can make the playoffs. I mean, they've got some quality. Montes there, kind of attacking midfielder. Look at the back. Navarrete is a quality player. Elias Hernandez on the right, Boselli, we've talked about, Andrade's there as well. So it's a good enough team to make the playoff. And yeah, of course it can make a title run, but I mean, for all these teams, basically, I think just right now, for me, I've got the top kind of echelon, Monterrey and Tigres, and I think if you take Leon's going to come up against Monterrey or Tigres in a Liguilla game, I'm always going to go for Monterrey or Tigres. You know what I mean? I think Leon now are in that kind of chasing group with Club America. I think those two are the ones that I put on the kind of the second tier. Yeah.
It's fascinating how quickly things change in Liga MX, where the conversation we had about Leon like a few weeks ago, the conversation we had about, for example, like Tijuana a few weeks ago as well. We're just like, they're the way that you're talking about Leon is the way that we were talking about Xolos for a little bit, and then now it's just fascinating to see how quickly those things change. Jason, looking at the rest of the results from the weekend, what stood out to you the most? What was the most impressive performance for you from the Liga MX weekend?
I'd probably say, I mean, obviously my Cruz Azul getting a big win after a tough midweek was good, but I think Tigres. I mean, I think that win over Chivas, where I think Chivas played pretty well. I mean, I think we've kind of. I mean, I've certainly been expecting the Chivas turnaround to come for a while, and I think they, at least up against one of the tougher opponents in the league, they played pretty well, but Tigres were still just too strong, and I think that was just up in one of those matches where you have Chivas just desperate for a result, and they just couldn't find it against Tigres. I really like the way they played, and I got to say that was they impressed me in that match this weekend. So
I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game. I don't know if we'll go to you again, Jason. So I saw a lot of people really angry about the penalty. Was it legit penalty? Was it was it controversial? I mean, just because I was following it on Twitter, so I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think all penalties can be controversial, and I think you'll have a lot of people on each side of this. I think it was a correct call. I mean, it's one of those where it's so late that it's always going to be controversial when it's called that late. But he's brought down in the box. He's brought down. He's going for the ball, and he's brought down. And it seems like one of those calls that could be called. And I think it was correct in being called because I mean, it was a foul. Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those spots where it's so late. There's going to be a lot of upset people when that's called that late in the match. But it was foul, and it was one.
Tom, your thoughts on that penalty? I mean, just because it seemed like everyone on Twitter is making a massive deal about it, but I guess it probably would be a massive deal for a game of that stature and a penalty that late.
No, I thought it was soft, to be honest. I thought, the majority of times you wouldn't get that penalty, but obviously the referee's given it, and the irony, it was the 93rd minute of the game, and the last time these two played in the league was the final, and in the 93rd minute there was the penalty incident with Sosa and Pereira, wasn't it? And it wasn't given, and I think that penalty was a penalty. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I know the offside was given, but just the irony of the teams coming together and there's another penalty decision late on, and this time it went Tigres' way. But yeah, I agree with Jason about Chivas' performance. I thought it was battling. I thought they had a couple of chances, but I still got the impression, to be honest, that you had one really, really strong team and another team kind of playing above the station, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that sounds fair to Chivas. Chivas are the champions, but I still get the feeling that, this Tigres team has got more to give. Sometimes I'm watching and I just think they're being held back still. I don't think the chemistry is fully right up front. I think it's the balance between, you've got Aquino, you've got Gignac, Ena Valencia, and Eduardo Vargas. And I don't know, I don't like how it's working out there, you know what I mean? I don't like how it's working up front. And I think Ferretti still needs to keep tweaking because he's been changing different formations so far this season. But I still don't feel like he's found the correct formation. Because at the end of the day, if you look at it player for player, Tigres are a better side than Chivas by quite a way for me. I mean, Chivas have got some really good players like Pizarro. But at the end of the day, Tigres, don't know, I think that's the disappointing thing. Sometimes you look at other leagues around the world and you get the really top teams, and every now and then, I'm not saying all the time, but a few times a season, they'll score 4, 5, 6, past the team. Sometimes I feel like, why can't Tigres do that? I mean, not necessarily against Chivas, but against the Veracruz, against the Puebla. I just feel like it's very rare that you see Tigres comfortably win a game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing maybe this season it's more of a problem of, I mean, like Chivas, they had a little bit of a shortened preseason, and that a few of those key players also had work with the national team over the summer. So maybe I think maybe that could have a factor here, and maybe why it hasn't been the most exciting start for Tigres. I know they're still in the top 8, but maybe maybe the mixture of those two has kind of hindered Tigres from really being that, as opposed to just winning games, like you said, having like a 6-0, 5-0 win, like being the PSG of Liga MX. Yeah, but that's what comes to mind for me.
And how they just keep adding new parts to that attack.
Yeah,
and just trying, like as Tom alluded to there, like how do they all fit in, making it work with all those like in the lineup, and when those new additions keep coming, that things could come a little unsettled.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd play Valente on the wing personally, and play Aquino on the left wing, and then kind of play Gignac, as the main striker, and then Vargas kind of floating behind and dropping deep. I just think like a kind of a 4-4-2 or 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it, is, I don't know. I think that would be give better balance to this Tigres team, because at the minute it's like sometimes you got Vargas playing as a kind of number 10, and then Valencia and Gignac up front, and I just think there's a lack of width. And I think Aquino needs to be, we've said how good he's played, how well he's played this season. Aquino needs to be on the wing, running past defenders, crossing in. Yeah. And I think you can partially put down, Gignac's, not being quite as good, especially in front of goal, to that. I don't think he's getting the supply from out wide this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm looking at another game here. Jason, you mentioned it really quickly, but speaking of those one-sided wins, this isn't on the running order, but I gotta go back to you on this. I mean, just Cruz Azul's 4-1 win over Pumas. Tell us your thoughts on the match. Is this a big point for Cruz Azul? I know we're all well aware of the problems and struggles they've had. I know they had the undefeated run and whatnot, but I mean, just your thoughts on that match. It's a huge victory. What did you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Just getting the big results, getting the goals. I think this team needs confidence. I mean, like Cruz Azul needs to have mental strength and confidence going toward the Liga and going toward big matches. Now, Cruz Azul has always played pretty well against Pumas, always played pretty well in the Estadio Universitario. So, I mean, like, in the Estadio Olímpico, sorry. But I mean, I think it was a big win. I think coming off that midweek thumping against Pachuca, it was good for them. But I don't know, like it's slightly disrespectful to say at this point, but Pumas are kind of a mess. And Cruz Azul, like, they got a win they should have gotten. They should have beaten Pumas. They got some extra goals. And I think it's similar to the loss Cruz Azul took against Pachuca, that the scoreline made look a lot worse than it actually was. I think this scoreline was kind of boosted up Cruz Azul, and I don't think it looked a lot better than it actually needed to be, with those extra goals. But, anything that helps gain Cruz Azul some confidence, those players' confidence, feeling good, moving toward the end, I think is great for them. I don't think necessarily speaks all that much to their like overwhelming strength and power and being a real contender heading toward the end here, but they're looking good. They're looking good. It's a good win for them moving forward. We'll see against some tougher competition moving forward.
Yeah, no, Pumas are definitely falling apart. That is a complete mess going on over there. Tom, I want to go to you on another match from the weekend. America's 2-1 win over Toluca. I think the big talking point here is the fact that America, got this win when they only had 10 players. Guido Rodriguez got a red. That shouldn't be surprising. That's one of my biggest criticisms about the guy. I love the guy. I think he's incredible, but just guy needs to be a little bit better about not getting those yellows. But focusing on Toluca, this is weeks after a 4-1 loss to Monterrey. What's missing from the team? What's missing from Toluca in order to keep up with these teams at the top of the table?
It's a difficult one with Toluca. They're a difficult, not just team, but a club. Difficult club at the minute to get your head round and to get what what kind of football they want to play, and they dominated possession against America. I mean, it was 75% possession, and I don't know. I mean, I think they're quite an old team as well. I think they're lacking a bit of pace, possibly, and invention in the final third. I mean, obviously very reliant still on Sambuesa for that. And I don't know. It's not a team that gets me excited. I thought I thought it was a dirty game, to be honest. There was, 11 yellow cards, 1 red card. It was like a bit like lucha libre in certain moments, so the way that players are kind of touching each other and then flying over and trying to get something from the ref and then going up to the ref and screaming in his face, and it's quite funny. But yeah, I think Toluca, obviously Cristante wants a kind of balanced team, one that plays decent football. But I don't know, I don't see the pace, I don't see the intensity of this Toluca team, and yeah, I'm not sure. They're just a good side, but they don't inspire me, if you know what I mean. And I think it might be because they've got so many, veteran players. Yeah. I mean, they have got a lot of old players, and I think that kind of contributes to them being like quite solid, usually good at getting results. But then when it comes down to it, when you need to find the extra gear, I think they struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and I think a match like that where they're playing against 10 men who are tucking in to get the result, that you need that marquee player. You need that top guy to go out there and really break down that defense that's sitting back. And Toluca just doesn't have it right now. Yeah. I mean, they've been playing and subsisting without those marquee players as a unit. And but like I think even so, like just the inconsistency in the coaching and just having bringing in like the veteran players over and over again, where they have the experience, but they don't necessarily have the dynamic abilities to go out and really get a result in that kind of situation. I think that's something that's missing there, especially this weekend.
Yeah. It's a good point, because if you look at the bigger clubs, a lot of them have gone out and gone, really, really big signings of late. Yeah. Especially the ones near the top of the league. And really, you look at Toluca, and probably the biggest signing was Santiago Garcia, who I think had a brilliant season.
Yeah, I think he's had a good season. Yeah.
Coming from Werder Bremen, and he's done really well. One of the best signings for me at the off season, but it's still not. I mean, the other one was Canelo from Puebla. I mean, I don't know.
And as tragic as it sounds, it's just I feel like they're destined for another semifinal finish. It's funny because that's what they were trying to that's what they were trying to move past. That's what they were kind of frustrated with Cardoso. You think that all right, let's try to bring someone. Let's try to do someone that could potentially push us for a title. But in my mind, when I'm looking at this team, when I'm looking at some of the results, all I see is a semifinal team. That's what I can't see anything past that, and I feel bad for it.
Scenario for them at this point for me.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they're going to make it that far even.
Yeah, no, I think I don't see it. But then again, they prove me wrong, because I think I've said a lot of times I don't see what this Toluca team has particularly got, apart from being pretty experienced, and Sam West is a top player. Let's not forget. Uribe up front's a good player. But I think I don't know. I don't see it. Like I said, I think obviously you got Tigres and Monterrey. Then you've got America and León, and then I think you've got kind of a group: Toluca, Cruz Azul, and Xolos, basically. And I think that's the next group. Morelia, maybe, I don't know. Another team that just, I mean, Morelia just consistently surprised me, but I'm sure we'll move on to them.
Yeah. All right, guys, just to wrap up the Liga MX weekend, we'll go to Jason on just your takeaways. Anything else we haven't talked about that you want to quickly bring up?
I hate to bring it up, but I mean, if I just feel bad, like equal parts, I feel bad, and I'm a little bit worried about anyone that really sat down and watched that Santos Puebla, like 90 minutes of scoreless draw between those two teams. I mean, that's just rough, and I feel bad for fans of teams and anyone that accidentally happened upon that match.
I'm not sure what was more brutal, that or the West Ham game that I woke up early for. Both were pretty bad, but yeah, no, that was quite dull. That was dull. It might even be an understatement. All right, guys, so we're going to move on to another section of the show that Jason came up with. It's called Liga MX Regifting. Is that what we should call it? I like Liga MX Regifting. No? What should the title be for this one?
It's the best I got. There's probably something better. But
there's probably something better. If someone can re-gift us a better title, that'd be perfect.
Yes.
So the point of this game, this little exercise we're doing is I'm gonna give these guys a list of teams, and in order to help the weakness of certain clubs, we're gonna gift them something from another club. I don't know, it could be a player, a stadium, an emotion. I don't care, something, anything from these clubs. So all right, so here's the first club. It's Pumas. Tom, if you could give Pumas anything from any other Liga MX club, what would it be?
I mean, I think what they need is what they've got, which is Nico Castillo. But Nico Castillo is fit and can play every week because of the minutes, struggling so much with injuries. But I think if I was to say what the Pumas need, I'd say Marco Garces from Pachuca as the sporting director. Marco Garces is somebody who, he studied abroad. He's kind of been a key part in the kind of regeneration or the foundation of what's gone on at Pachuca in terms of the youth system, the university, the kind of integral, integrated, youth system at the club, which has produced, a lot of good players and continues to produce a lot of good players. And you only have to look at any squad list for the Mexican national youth teams, and you see so many Pachuca players. So I think that's exactly what Pumas need: somebody who can, can take charge of a project over the long term. Because at the end of the day, that's the identity of Pumas, and we're not seeing it. We're not seeing the players that are coming through just don't seem to be good enough right now. And at the end of the day, Pumas are obviously located in Mexico City. Yeah, I mean, you've got on your doorstep there, such opportunities for scouting if you can tap into the market. So I'd say Marco Garces from Pachuca, give them a proper sporting director, somebody with vision and with basically who's been out there, seen the world and he's proven himself as well at Pachuca.
Yeah, Jason,
I have the exact same thing written down here. Pachuca's youth development staff. I was thinking the exact same way. I mean, this is the identity of Pumas. This was the team that played the youth, that developed Mexican youth, and brought them up through the club, and they flourished. And it just hasn't been there for Pumas lately. I mean, it's what they need to do more than anything else, because it's not a team that's ever going to go out. And I mean, obviously, it's worked out with Nico Castillo, but a lot of the other players they brought in have just been kind of piecemeal. This is a team that really can and should be developing Mexican players, and that's something they desperately need. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Jason, we're going to go to you for Lobos BUAP. What would you give them?
I mean, they need goals, don't they? They need to score. I don't know if we could take a great goal scorer and put it on the team. I think we talked about Aviles earlier. He'd help. He'd help.
This is the first thing that I thought of, actually. I'd bring him up too.
Monterrey could spare him, to be honest. So send him over to BUAP. Let him just get a whole bunch of goals, and I think they'll be better for it, obviously.
Enroll in some classes, hang out. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
That's right. That's right.
What would you give Lobos BUAP?
Lobos BUAP, some money. Some money. No, I mean, I think Rafa Puentes is on track. He's going to need another transfer window. I think there's obvious problems. I think the loss of both Quiñones, Luis and Julian, have been massive blows. I know they got the result against Chivas, but they missed that. But they need somebody like that up front. They need some real pace up front. They play a very vertical game, and I think that they basically need to keep investing in the squad. And I mean, we're going to get onto Chivas, I think, next. And you see what happens when you sell a couple of players and you don't keep renewing your squad. You don't add one or two players in the transfer window to improve, but also to create competition for places. I think Rafa Puente is doing a really, really good job, but he's going to need some quality at some point. So if there is a bit of money there, I'm sure we'd spend it wisely in the winter transfer window.
All right, Tom, let's go to Chivas right now, since you just brought it up. That's next on the list. What would you give Chivas from another? I know you may or may not follow Chivas. I'm not entirely sure yet, but what would you give Chivas?
Chivas, I would give Elias Hernandez. I think Chivas has struggled on the wing. Carlos Fierro's been pretty poor. He didn't play the other day. He was on the bench the other day, and Cisneros came in. But I think they've missed that provider of goals from the wing, and obviously now Pulido is not back yet. But I think they need a provider on the wing. I don't know what's happened to Isaac Visuela, but I'd say I'd give him Elias Hernandez. I think he's the player if you look down the Liga MX. Because obviously there's not that many Mexicans playing these days, and you say which one can make a difference, which one's proven, that's going to come in and just fit in easily. And I think you'd say it's Elias Hernandez.
Yeah, I agreed. Jason, what would you give Chivas?
I'm thinking like some pixie dust or something that like helps players regain form. Like something they could sprinkle on Orbelin to like bring him back to like whatever he used to be. So like I don't know what is going on with Orbelin, but they really need him back being what he used to be, what he was for them during last season's run. Toluca probably has some. They probably throw it at Rubens and try to keep him going. I'm assuming Conejo soaks in this stuff over at Pachuca. So whatever those guys are using, get that over to Chivas. Throw it all on Orbelin because they need him back.
Yeah, I'd say if you can somehow magically have Tuca as an assistant coach, just to kind of like get some players motivated, I think that'd be incredible to have Tuca as assistant coach over there with Chivas. All right, guys, that'd be incredible. Guys, let me go back to you, Jason, on Santos. What would you give Santos, Jason?
Santos is tough. I think they need a long-term manager. They need a manager back in there. The way Caixinha had them rolling for a while there, maybe Almeida, right? Chivas don't want him anymore, probably. So they could send him over to Santos, and I'd like to see what he could do with. He could bring in players from all around. He could bring in players from South America. He could obviously develop the youth through Santos, and they have a pretty decent youth development system at Santos. But going out and having the full gamut of players to choose from as well could be interesting. So with a manager like Almeida in there, I think that could make a big difference for Santos.
Tom, what would you give Santos?
Along the same lines, I'd say bring back Caixinha. I think that's the last time that you saw Santos Laguna with a real identity, that they knew what they were playing about. I thought, they're not a big team. They're a well-run team, but they're not a big team. And I thought Caixinha gave them that identity, not just in terms of, on the field, because his style of play was very different than what we used to in Mexico. It was very much about hitting on the transitions, fast counter-attacking football. Marchesín used to get the ball, and first thing was bang it up to Giannini. And I thought he provided a really nice contrast. But I think, Caixinha's personality as well. I mean, he got the club in the headlines. He got them. He talked about things. He went to a press conference and read out all the refereeing decisions that had favoured America. And that's what That's what I want to see from these managers, because he's also a serious guy. Who, I think he once said that he didn't have the same training session twice ever in all his time at Santos Laguna. It was always changing up. So yeah, I'd say bring back Caixinha. I think it's still missing him, to be honest.
All right, we'll make some calls over to Scotland or Rangers and see what we can do, Tom. All right, guys. So just to speed things up, I'm not going to give each of you just one each, since we still got to talk about.
I've got one answer for both.
You got one answer. You got one. Yeah. All right. So all right. Look, how about let's just try to make it quick then for these two. All right. So Tom, we'll start with you. Puebla. What would you give Puebla?
Puebla, new owner, proper project. Stop messing around with this constant overturn of players, constant overturn of managers, and same with Veracruz. So
yeah,
it's just not serious. They bring the league down. These clubs,
yeah,
like it's not. You can talk about Liga MX and we can talk about Pachuca all day,
yeah,
but you can't ignore what's that phrase? You're only as good as your weakest link. A team's only as good as the weakest player in it. And I think in terms of the league, the Liga MX is only as good as its worst teams, and I think Puebla and Veracruz, the way they run, basically holding Liga MX back.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah, that's right. Puebla needs the money. They need, and that probably comes through new ownership.
Yeah.
Someone who can get this team that is not going to survive on loanies and really invest in the club. And Veracruz probably, it's similar again, but maybe some of Puebla's good luck that Puebla has hung on for so long and avoided relegation. Veracruz are going to need all the help they can get to avoid that relegation. So a little bit of good luck from Puebla, and obviously a whole bunch of money would help too.
Yeah.
Yes, just a quick one. I think both clubs it could be really, really good projects. Puebla's a beautiful, beautiful city in Mexico, one of my favorite cities. And it's got a nice stadium. It's just that they don't put together a team that's kind of worthy. They don't put together
a team. They're all on loan. They don't put together.
Puebla should be fighting for titles. They're good enough. They've got history as a team. And Veracruz as well. Their stadium's not bad. Over there on the coast.
Yep.
Yeah, decent fan base. It's something that, I don't know. It'd be brilliant if two ownership groups came in and really revitalized those two teams.
All right. Well, guys, we could talk about obviously Liga MX for a long time. We got to start making the transition over to Mexico because it's the international break. We got to talk about El Tri. Mexico's going to be taking on Trinidad and Tobago this Friday, and then next week they're going to be taking on Honduras. This week's game is at home in San Luis. It's not the Azteca. Still trying to figure out why it's being played at the venue it is this Friday, but I have my random theories, I guess. All right, guys. Tom, we're going to go to you on this. Last week you and I talked in depth about the roster and the call-up, but with that in mind, what should we expect from Mexico this Friday? What should we expect from maybe the better question? What should we expect from Osorio?
I think it's a difficult one. I think it's going to be. I think he'll probably go for how usually in the international break he starts with the strongest team and then kind of goes with a more B. He makes a few changes, and I think this time it might be the other way around. I think that on Friday he might go with these with his alternatives and we know who they are. The likes of Jonathan Dos Santos might play, Giovanni Dos Santos. I think Elias Hernandez has done so well recently that he deserves some minutes. And then at the back, who we got at the back in the minute is Ayala and players like that.
Yeah, Ayala is definitely going to be up there. Who else? We could potentially see. Did Gallardo get a start? Because if Gallardo got a call up, he might get a start too.
Yeah.
And obviously, might see someone like Corona, who's doing quite well. I think he's doing quite well for Cruz Azul too. Yeah,
but I do think this time it might be the other way around than usual because he usually goes strong and then kind of. But I mean, this Trinidad and Tobago team. I think 10 of the players are under 25. Yeah. So Dennis Lawrence, the coach, is basically he's thinking about the next qualifying already.
Yeah.
He's left out some of the more experienced players, some of the bigger names, and Mexico should be able to get past Trinidad at home without too many problems. I mean, it's great to play in San Luis. I think that the tickets sold out really quickly. You saw the impact. Even though this game doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things, you can see that Mexicans in the provinces, as the people in Mexico City like to say a bit derogatively sometimes, deserve some of these games. I mean, this is the first competitive game that Mexico played outside of Mexico City since 2012, I believe. So
yeah, it's crazy.
It just tells you the story, doesn't it?
Yeah. Jason, we've everyone's been talking about the roster for quite some time. I know Tom and I talked about it last week, but I want to get your thoughts. Just do you think there's anyone missing from this current roster that you would have liked to have seen called up?
Yeah, overall, the roster is basically fine, and like many have said already, it's not too many surprises. It's kind of what we expected. Although there were a few spots where if I was to get picky, I would pick them apart a little bit. I think there's a places where if we're thinking about Russia at this point, which you would hope at this point with qualifying secured, you're looking at moving to the World Cup, and you want not necessarily experiments, but you want some of those young players that you want to be able to be in that position. And the guy I'm looking at is like Alan Pulido. I think now you mentioned him last week, but Alan Pulido I think is someone who has the potential, and I think he has the talent to be in this roster. And I'd like him to be on that spot. I think he should be in there instead of Uribe. I love Uribe, but he's getting a little bit older at this point. I'd rather see Pulido in there. But I mean, Pizarro's another one, but I think it's just kind of a logjam in that position at this point for him. And I don't think I don't think the form has been there totally either as well. So
yeah, I think my big question about that third striker, obviously we have Chicharito and Jimenez. That's like going forward, who is going to be that guy? Because Oribe needs to be replaced. We can't keep relying on this guy who's aging, and there have been a number of good options who haven't really stepped up. I thought Kubo could have been that guy, and he wasn't. He just was not on. He proved that during the Gold Cup, and that's a big question for me. He's like, who will be that third guy who will eventually step up? Because, like I said, it just can't be Oribe forever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it'll be Oribe at the World Cup. I think the other factor to weigh in there is the kind of the personality. I think he's quite popular. He's quite a solid person to have around the squad. He's got a lot of experience, and Alan Pulido, he's a character. He's a character. Yeah. If things are going really well, then Pulido's, with Chivas, he's really integrated well. But you can imagine him, not integrating so well. I mean, I think some of the stories at the 2014 World Cup weren't the most positive about his, not performances on the field. I don't think he even played, but around the camp, I think you hear a few rumours that he wasn't the best guy to have around there, and obviously he's matured since then. But yeah, Oribe Peralta's been there for so long. I think it'd be harsh to not have him in there. But and Pulido now with this other injury again, it seems like it's a serious injury again. He's got to prove himself. He's got to, he's been out for a few months, so he's still got to get back playing well. He's still got to start banging in the goals. But yeah, just a quick one on Pizarro, because I don't know, it's just a random thought I was having the other day. But why is Pizarro not in? Because there's a good argument that he should be in there. I know people have criticised me a bit on Twitter and stuff for saying he's not quite done enough. But the other thing I think is maybe Pizarro's the type of player who needs the team kind of built around him. You know what I mean? Because I watched Chivas play and I watched how he's linking up and stuff like that, and it was very, very different watching him with Mexico. Yeah. And I wonder if that's something Osorio's aware of. And bearing in mind that Osorio is not going to build a team for Russia 2018 based around Pizarro, then I wonder if that's kind of counting against him right now.
What do you mean by that? Just are you talking about like formation wise? Like you would perhaps think it'd be best if he was like a lone central attacking midfielder, as opposed to maybe you see like two kind of sharing the duty with El Tri in that midfield, usually in that midfield for Mexico, or just what do you mean about just? And the team needs to be built around him.
I mean, he's given a free role, kind of, or a freer role to kind of, come in from the wing. If he's playing on the wing, you see him pop up in different areas of the field. And I think Almeida gives him that freedom and says, "You're the creative spark of this team. Make it happen. Link up the play, be that kind of link-up player between the midfield and the attack." And I think that with Mexico, that's not going to happen. And I think with Pizarro, like where do you play him? Yeah. If you put him in, Osorio's 4-3-3. Yeah. And where do you play Pizarro? Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any chance Osorio would play Pizarro on the wing. Yeah. I don't think he sees him as a winger because he's not particularly quick, and I think he really likes his wingers to be aggressive and take on the fullback and get the crosses in. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you're playing a midfield three with one holding midfielder, he'd be the right-sided player. But again, that's not a position he's necessarily played a lot before. So I don't know. It's just a difficult one to see where Pizarro fits in.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that unfolds, especially when it looks like this recent call-up. That's like it's clear that a lot of these guys, I would say probably like 17 to like 18, 19, these guys, they basically have a spot set for Mexico in the next roster, or not the next roster, but for the final roster for the World Cup. Tom, I want to go back to you really quickly on something that you brought up when we were discussing tonight's show about the TV deal that Mexico made. Just give us a little. I don't know if you guys talked about in the last Thursday show or what you went into, just like regarding that potential deal. But just
did you not listen to it?
No. You know what? I used to actually love to listen to the Mexican soccer. I used to actually love, like, when I wasn't part of the show, that was like something I looked forward to. Then I joined the show and I was just like, oh well, this.
No, you hate it.
No. I meant like it was. I meant like.
Digging a hole here. Digging a hole here.
All right, you know what? I'm going to stop.
Fuera Cesar.
Tell us about the recent deal that Mexico made, the 8-year deal. 8-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's controversial because, I mean, basically, it's a renovation with Television and TV Azteca for 8 years. There was a rival bid from America Mobil, which is owned by Carlos Slim, and with alongside NBC and Telemundo in the States. And that bid would have kind of also allowed the federation to sell the rights domestically in Mexico. But basically, I think what happened, my understanding of it is, there was already a clause in the previous contract which gave automatic renewal.
Clause. How confident that clause was actually there, that they kind of, I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of interest flying around as well. I mean, even the people criticising, there's interest there. There's interest all around. I mean, honestly, there's a couple of questions that, I mean, I feel haven't been even brought up right now. And one of them's, who put that clause in? Because I'm not a business person, but that is ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, you're basically giving away your rights. And Iraragorri from Santos basically said, Televisa and Azteca were kind to us. They upped the, they went beyond. They gave us more money than they needed to. But I mean, who put a clause in for an automatic renewal for something as precious as TV rights in this modern era of football? I mean, that's a big question for me. That's ridiculous. I mean, from a business point of view, absolutely ridiculous. And nobody's asked about why that clause existed or whether the person who put that clause in or who signed away on that clause is going to be held accountable. Because if you're a normal business, then that's, I mean, I'm sure somebody would pull you up on that and say, what kind of deal is that? But anyway, that was my thought. My other thought is, and I don't quite understand it. I mean, I've been here almost 10 years now, well, 9 years, and like, what's the relationship between the Liga MX clubs and the federation? I mean, where's this written down? Where's the statutes to say what they are in control of and what the federation is in control of? Because in theory now, the Liga MX is a separate entity from the Mexican Federation. I mean, under the umbrella, but separate with separate interests. And you see the separate interests sometimes with kind of like the 10-8, the 9-9 rule. Mm-hmm. You clearly see the splitting of the interest there. But with this, I mean, why have you got clubs? You've got 4 clubs deciding what's best for the league, and I don't know. I mean, the question that I'd ask is as well. I mean, some of these club owners are politicians and stuff, and it's like, how are they not just defending their own interests? And I mean, I just don't get it. And my further point to that is, what happens when one day there's foreign owners? Yeah. In Liga MX, what happens when San Luis, if they get promoted, and all of a sudden you've got Atletico Madrid, Atletico Madrid's owners? I mean, because it's not Atletico Madrid even, but Atletico Madrid's owners suddenly having some say in the Mexican national team. Imagine if in 5 years a Chinese company buys Xolos, or someone from Qatar buys Veracruz. I mean, then are they going to then have a say in who picks the national team coach? Are they going to vote on the TV rights for the national team? I mean, it would seem ridiculous. And I think it goes back to the old thing. It's just the Mexican game is such a bubble, and I think that explains why certain TV companies like ESPN, like Fox, have been so critical, because they feel that it's that kind of the old boys network, if you like. It's the same kind of people making the decisions. And just quickly, I mean, Iraragorri, the Santos president, went on Fox to fair to him, and he was there 30 minutes, and he was back and forth. They had a proper debate, and one of the things where he said, well, this is a good deal. This is we've done well for the national team. But I mean, Televisa at the end of the day, and this isn't my opinion, but if it doesn't have the best reputation amongst Mexicans. I mean, we've seen this recently with the earthquake. A lot of people blamed it for that story about, what was it, Frida Sofia. Yeah. We've seen it historically as well. And I'm not saying it's a bad institution now. I'm not sure. But it doesn't have the best reputation. And I think that feeds into this criticism of the federation, because it's going back to a company that isn't well viewed right now with Mexican people.
Yeah. So we'll see how that. I mean, it's just, you saw the coverage from the past couple of weeks. I mean, it was just fascinating to see just the people who were like for and against it, and just to see the transparency of the other deal, which apparently offered more money. But it'll be interesting to see how and what lies in the future of the national. I know it's somewhat set TV wise for the next 8 years, but just for the future, just to see what this means for not only just for FMF, but just Mexican soccer in general too.
I think Naib was sending me a message saying, if the other bid would have got accepted, it would have been a couple of US companies, and then all of a sudden, would they really press the English language side then of kind of the national team? Would that then expand? And I think that's the thing. I mean, if you follow the Mexican national team round, like I've done for the last few years, I mean, there's certain things that go on, and even me, I'm not like a kind of conspiracy theory kind of person, but
sometimes you spoil hats right now, Tom.
but it's strange how things work. It really is, and I think part of that is because I don't know, because there's always had this alliance with the TV company, and that's never been broken. And I think people are kind of afraid of kind of this brave new world, which we're seeing in Liga MX. Let's not forget. I mean, we're seeing it. We're witnessing a revolution, a TV revolution right now. And I think obviously a lot of people thought the national team would be the logical next step, but the companies have defended the interests and they've been backed up by the majority of the Liga MX owners. But I mean, coming on ESPN tonight, Jesus Martinez, the Pachuca president, he's about to speak and he's about to spill the beans on what's happening. And what you see now as well, and another real worry moving forward, is that Liga MX clubs, the owners are split. Before they used to all vote in a block and it'd be all, they'd have a disagreement. But now you've got a kind of rebel group led by Pachuca, led by Jesus Martinez. Chivas are also kind of, they can be a bit rebellious. Lobos Guapi even the other day. And the Monterrey clubs now, especially Monterrey. And you see it now that kind of this other block that's saying, you know what, we're not necessarily going to agree with everything you're doing with it at this federation level. And I think there's going to be a lot of tension moving forward between the Liga MX clubs.
Yeah, and we'll see how that unfolds. I mean, like I unfortunately read Sven Goran Eriksson's autobiography. It's not that good, guys. Don't read it. But like he says in the book, he didn't have just one. Really? When he was coaching Mexico, he didn't have just one boss. He had multiple bosses, and that was kind of interesting to see. All right, guys, let's talk about the Mexico.
Sven Goran Eriksson.
Let's talk about Sven. Let's talk about. Let's actually not talk about Sven. A little weird. Let's talk about the top 25, which should be coming out soon for FootMax Nation. I usually ask you guys, I usually harass you guys with 15 emails, like every week about sending in your list. But just kind of going with the spirit of that list, I want to quickly get your guys' top 6 players for the national team right now. What would your top 6 be? Maybe it's Chicharito at the top. Maybe it's Omar Govea at the very top. But Jason, let's go to you. What would your top 6 be? I know we're a little over, but if it's all right, if you guys would continue just for a few more minutes. But yeah, what would your top 6 be?
Yeah. It's tough with these because we try to consider the fact that we're going for the overall quality of the player and just who's the best player, just kind of acknowledging form, but not necessarily devoted entirely to form. So with that in mind, I'm still going with Andres Guardado as my number 1 player. He's been for a while. I think he's probably Mexico's most important player. If he's playing well in the center of the field, then Mexico are in good shape, and I think he's just overall the best we have. Chicharito, I have at 2. Moved up for me recently. I have Raul Jimenez at 3. Who's probably higher than most people have him, but I'm a big Raul believer, and I think he has just crazy talent. Tecatito at 4, Jonathan Dos Santos at 5, and I have Chucky at 6, just edging out Vela, who's dropped down to 7 for me.
Yeah, pretty close to my list. Tom, what would your top 6 be?
I've got Chicharito number 1. I just think he's scoring goals in the Premier League again, and he's for me, he's the flag bearer of Mexican football abroad. Andres Guardado at 2, just for his consistency. I mean, the consistency of playing really well is phenomenal. Then I've got Hector Herrera at 3. I think he's he's had a bit of a difficult time at Porto this season, but sometimes you watch him play in the Confederations Cup, you watch him play. The last couple of games he's played with Porto, he's played quite well. And I think in terms of what he brings, I think he's worth his place. And then Irving Lozano, I've got 4, obviously a big mover up. I mean, he's just he's answered all the questions asked for him in the last year of his career, really since the Olympics. I mean, obviously he didn't have the best Olympics, but he's gone back to Pachuca. He started scoring goals, making the difference. He's become a regular for the national team, and then he moved to Europe, and he's just banging in the goals and being one of the best players in the league. I mean, he's just answered all the questions. And I've got Jesus Corona, Tecatito, then I've got Moreno.
Yeah, I think I got Moreno higher on mine. I have Guardado at number 1, just because I think he's and what he's done so far with his new team as well is incredible, and it seems like Real Betis are starting to get a little bit more attention as well for what they've done in La Liga. And Guardado has been a key part of that as a central midfielder for the team. Moreno is my number 2. I still think that just at his best, he's one of the most consistent, reliable players in the national team. I know he's had some injury problems recently, but I think he's such a key and important part of the national team. Chicharito's number 3 for me. Tecatito number 4. I got Lozano at number 5, and number 6, Jonathan Dos Santos. I know everyone's is hating on him right now. because of his move to Major League Soccer. But at this point, he's still such a crucial part of the national team. And then right behind, I have Herrera and Vela, but they're close. They're close to the top. All right.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'd say about Chicharito, because I know both of you picked Guardado, is I'd say he's the only Mexican player out there who's proved himself at a very top level. In terms of playing for Real Madrid, playing in the Champions League, playing for Man United, and doing it for the national team as well. So I mean, I don't know. I kind of factor in that as well.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I think with full confidence, I could say that Guardado could do that, though. I think with a lot of confidence, I think that Guardado.
I don't think he could. I don't think he's elite quality. I think he's a very, very good player who you can rely on. I think he's 100% professional, but I think if you put him in a Bayern Munich, I don't think he'd get in. Or I think if you put him in a Real Madrid, I don't think he'd get in.
I just think that, I mean, just from what I've seen from him at like Champions League performances, I think there's like one that stands out with him against like Atletico Madrid when he was at PSV. He was dominating Atleti, and that kind of like impressed me. I don't know. I still think that Guardado he could be competing at that same level as Chicharito, but of course, but we haven't seen it yet, and that's the thing.
But I mean, I think other teams would have been in for him. You know what I mean? He's gone to the Betis for a reason, and not gone to the Barca or Real Madrid, Atletico. Maybe Atletico he could do something, but I don't know. I think he's a very good player without being elite.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's see. What do we have here? We got to talk about. Let's wrap this show up really quickly. It's 8:10 over here, which means it's much later for both of you two. Let's talk about really quick about the U17 World Cup. It's coming up. Mexico could be taking on. It's going to take on Iraq, taking on Chile and England. Any players we should be keeping an eye on? Anything that your thoughts on the upcoming tournament for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit weird because I'm pretty excited about this Mexico squad, to be honest. I think there's a lot of players that are already got Liga MX experience. But then at the same time, they just played a friendly tournament in Malaga, in Spain, and they played 4 games. They lost 3 and drew 1. I think they lost against Iran, Spain, and Korea, and then they drew another game against Korea. But yeah, I mean, obviously without seeing the game, it's difficult to judge. But I don't know what the formations were, I don't know who was starting and stuff. But I think Roberto de la Rosa, I think we talked about him before, top striker for Pachuca, especially the understanding that he seems to have with Daniel Lopez from Club Tijuana. I think that's going to be something to watch out for. And then Jairo Torres, the Atlas attacking midfielder, usually plays on the right wing though for the under-17s. I mean, I think he was named the best player for the CONCACAF qualifying tournament. The first player to be born in this century to play in Liga MX, so another strong one. The captain, Luis Olivas from Chivas. I think another a physical centre-back with obviously a big role. And then obviously the standout, the one that everybody knows and everyone talks about is Diego Lainez.
Yep.
And hopefully he can have a big tournament, because he certainly has got the ability to light it up, to be honest.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think Lainez is definitely the player for me to keep an eye on. And of course, De La Rosa, just because of just the amount of goals he's been able to score at the youth level in Liga MX, and just hoping to see that in this upcoming World Cup. Jason, it's already 8:11 over here. We're wrapping up the show. I'm gonna have you close out, and I'll have you close out with this question. What are you most anxious to see from Mexico? Not the U17 team, but the senior team. What are you most anxious to see from them this week?
Yeah, I think with obviously the results not being as important as they would normally be in a World Cup qualifier with the qualification being locked up, I think what I want to see more than anything else is just see that midfield really click. And specifically, I want to see Hector Herrera. Really I want to see peak Hector Herrera. I want to see him. Yeah. Tom had him ranked really high on his list, and I want to see him in that justifying that high ranking. I want to see him at his powers. Whatever position he's playing in, I want him at his best, because I think he's someone that, if he's at his best, could be so important for Mexico going toward that World Cup. So I want to see him clicking, and hopefully Guardado in there as well. Kind of, it's just all meshing together in that midfield is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Well, let's see what we get from Mexico this Friday, and also from next week against Honduras. Until then, we'll see you all the next week on the Mexican Soccer Show. Thank you for everyone who watched. Thank you, everyone on the YouTube chat. I'm always pretty bad about seeing the comments there. I didn't look at them. I should be looking at them, but you guys obviously gave us some of the answers there from the earlier question. But yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jason. Thank you to everyone. And yeah, we'll see you all on next week's show. Have a good night.